Welcome to this week's episode of The Lorraine Murphy Show. I am very excited for this week's episode because I'm getting to talk about one of my favorite things, which is strategy. So I'm a big fan of sharing my own goals for my business each year on the show for a few different reasons. One, it's just fun to take you behind the scenes and share what I'm planning within my business. And I also just love strategy. I love helping my mentees with strategy. I love creating my own strategies for my business. I love talking strategy. I love thinking strategy. So that's the other reason I'm really excited for this week's episode. And also it's serious accountability. If I'm putting it out here with all of you listening, what I am planning on doing in my business over the year, well, I kind of better make it happen. So they're the three reasons that I really love sharing my goals in the business each year. Now, before I dive in and share what's coming up in my business next year, I want to share a little bit about my elevated strategy method. So every single year, I work with my one-on-one mentees, helping them craft their next 12 months plan, both in their businesses, but also personally as well. And for some of you who've been in my world for a while, you will know that each year I put together like a goal-setting toolkit type thing. This year, I'm really elevating that particular offer. So I've actually been recording. I've done 2 full days of filming on it. And what I have created is a self-paced program that steps you through the exact process that I would take you through if you were one of my private mentees to help you craft your plan for the next 12 months in your business, but also personally as well. I have packed so much gold in there. There's pep talks, there's theory, there are the specific worksheets and structures that I work with my one-on-one mentees with. And it's packed with value. I was working at the pricing for it and I said, this is at least $1,000 program. And then I said, but also I really want to make this as accessible as humanly possible to as many of you as humanly possible. So I have decided to price it at a ridiculously low price of $297. So all of that thinking, all of that planning, there's a playbook in there, there's guided visualizations, there's pep talks. It's all in there for just under $300 for you. It is available right now. So if you want to hop to the link in the show notes, you can grab your own version and you can get immediate access to it as well. Okay, so on to my business plans for 2026. So my brilliant operations manager, Sam, flew up from Tasmania and we spent the whole day together. I think it was the very last day of September. So we spent the whole day together at my private members club and we mapped out. Well, first of all, we spent some time really articulating what was it that didn't go so well this year. And then we spent most of the day planning out what we were going to do in 2026. So you may be listening to this going, oh my God, Lorraine, end of September, that's very, very early to be doing your business planning. I really love doing it early. And I love that because first of all, we can get really excited about what's happening next year. But secondly, we've got quite a decent creative team now, like decent sized creative team. So there's people that we need to start getting across different timelines. And really what we try and do by planning early in advance of 2026, it means that we can actually start to get quite a bit planned already, definitely at least for the next quarter, the first quarter of 2026. So it just gives us a bit more latitude. It gives us a bit more wiggle room, particularly coming into coming into Christmas and the summer holidays in Australia. If you're not from Australia, pretty much the whole country closes down in January. So we really try to hit the ground running so that everything's set up for the next quarter in the business before we break for the Christmas break. And it just means, we can be excited. We can get really organized as well. So I think what's really, really important, just to give you some context. So this is my second business. So I ran my first one for just under 6 years and then I sold that. So this second business turned 7 in May this year. For the first 4 years, and I have been very open about this, it was very much run with a scrambling type of energy. I had so many ideas about all the different things I could do within my personal brand business when I started it, that I pretty much ran around the place creating new offers constantly for the first 4 years. After 4 years, I exhausted myself and realized, Lorraine, this business is not going to grow. It's not going to grow in a way that feels spacious to you. And it is sure as hell not going to make the kind of money you want it to make if you continue along with this scrambling strategy. So for the last 3 years, I have very much changed the approach to the business in terms of it's a lot more intentional, it's a lot more profitable, and there's a lot more ease woven into it. Because this is the thing, if you're creating new shit every 5 seconds like I was doing, there's so much startup energy required, and then getting the new thing out to the world and educating the world on what it is your new thing is, and then deciding whether or not it's working. Like, it's just so draining. So much of the last 3 years of my business has been really about identifying the things that are working in my business in a particular year, and then really doubling down on those the following year. So if you think about it, I'm coming into the 4th year of that approach now. It just means that every single year things are getting more streamlined, a lot more intentional, and as I said, there's a lot more ease woven into it as well. So how Sam and I approached that particular day, we first spent probably about an hour and a half, I think, roughly, going through what went well in 2025. What are the things that really worked in terms of the strategy that we ran with this year? And also, what could we have done better? What could have gone better? What could have sold better? All the things. And I think that's a really, really key part of planning that a lot of business owners do not do, because they're so excited for, the beautiful, it's like when you get a brand new notebook and it's all fresh and clean and you just want to write in the new notebook. I think it's a really bad idea just to start planning straight away, because you're not basing it off any data, any intel, any insight on what you've already done. So that is why for any planning process, whether it's personal or business, I will always start with a bit of a review on what has gone well to date, and then using that data then to inform what the strategy is for the following year or the following quarter or whatever it might be. So in my Bold Darling Mastermind, for example, we have a quarterly planning day every quarter. So that's an entire day that the group spends planning their own business. And the first hour of that day is always, with that exception, designed around reflecting over the previous quarter and helping the group extract the learnings for this following quarter before they even start planning that next quarter. So we did that. And then, as I said, we had the data then to really build from. So not diving immediately into, okay, this is what we're going to be going and doing. It was about, okay, what's working first and foremost. And this is exactly what I've done with the elevated strategy method, for example. Pretty much stage one of the whole process is to do, first of all, I call it the wheel of life. You're probably familiar with this. A lot of different mentors and coaches use it. I've doctored it slightly to work within my methodology. So it's the wheel of life, which really assesses personally where things are at for you right now. And then I've also designed a business pulse check, which is really about checking in on your business and where that's at right now. Then once you have the findings and the insights from that, only then do we actually launch into the strategy process together. So there's a principle that I want to share with you, because I think it will really shed some light on how I approach business planning, and we've really fine-tuned this year on year. So my background, if you're not aware, was marketing, public relations, communication strategy before I started my first business in 2012. And one of the clients that I didn't personally work on them, but they were one of our agency clients, was Coca-Cola. And something that Coca-Cola did, which to this day I think is so smart, how they sliced up their marketing budget was that, let's say they've got their marketing budget for the next year. And what they do is they spend 10% of that marketing budget and I don't know if they still do this, but this is what they were doing when I worked kind of in the vicinity of the brand about 15 years ago. They would spend 10% of their marketing budget on brand new things. So things that they'd never tried before. So back when I had my influencer marketing agency, we were going after the 10% with the Coca-Cola budget, because it was a very, very new space, very untested. And we just wanted to get our little wedge in the door to get a little tiny portion of that 10% to show Coca-Cola what influencer marketing could do for their brand. And then they spend 20% on what from the 10% of that kind of experimental bucket of cash from the previous year, whatever went well within that 10%, they double down on that and they spend 20% on it the following year. And then they spent the remaining 70% on the stuff that they just know works. So maybe it's outdoor advertising, maybe it's meta advertising, whatever it might be, like the Christmas ad on TV every year. So that's how Coca-Cola divide up their marketing budget. And I actually think there is so much gold in that for us business owners when we're planning our next year in business. So that's exactly what myself and Sam did. So we really focused on what was the 70% for us in 2025 that we want to continue doing? What was the 10% that went really well this year that we want to double down on next year? And what's that kind of new sexy 10% that we want to test, create some pilot programs around what that will look like next year? So that's the structure that we've used, and that's the structure that I'm going to share with you as I step through what's in the works for my business next year. So from the 70% that we will be carrying into next year, first of all, it was my Magnificence program. So this is my top tier mentoring program. It is a very comprehensive one-on-one program for the entire year. And then the group also comes together as a group as well. So there are quarterly in-person get-togethers. There's a retreat each year that we host. And there's also a monthly group connection call where they get to really connect with businesses at a similar level and very, very like-minded. So that group is for women doing 7 figures plus in their business. It is coming into its 4th year, I think, next year. And I just get more and more excited about it every year. So next year we are elevating that again. And we're taking our retreat. It's been on the Central Coast for the last couple of years. We're taking it to Tasmania next year. And we've also planned in a sleepover for one of our quarterly get-togethers. And we're adding in a few layers to really elevate that VIP day that we do at the start of the year together. So Magnificence program, very much in the 70%. The other elements that are in the 70% is my Bold Darling Mastermind group. And then within that, then the VIP level, which is where they can upgrade and spend time in a more intimate group with just the VIP group each month. And we also have VIP only in-person get-togethers and also have some one-on-one time with me as well. And then Bold Darling Mastermind, which is the group only mentoring. So both of those went incredibly well this year, and they are absolutely in the 70% next year. The other thing from this year that is in the 70% for next year is my Bali retreat. So I'm hosting that in June next year. This episode is not going out for a few weeks after I record this. So I actually won't be able to tell you how many spots are left right now. But if you just check in on my Insta, I'm sure I can let you know. So that's in my 70%. So all of those elements, those 4 different elements of my business went incredibly well this year. And I am so excited to take them even more to the next level next year. Within my 20%, so remember the 20%, going back to that Coca-Cola principle, the 20% comes from the 10% that went really well this year. So for me right now, that's in 2025. So the things that we tested this year in 2025 was having a live in-person event. So last year, I did 3 different in-person events. I went to Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. And this year in 2025, we decided we were just going to consolidate all that effort that we spent on running 3 events in 3 different states, bring it all, get very, very focused and very intentional and very centered on having one really awesome event in Sydney. So we took over Dalton House in Sydney. We had this beautiful view of the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. It was just magical. That happened in August this year, and it was up there, one of my favorite things we did in the business this year. The energy in that room, the breakthroughs that women had, the messages that I'm still getting from women and the actions that they've taken and the results that they're seeing from that day. It was incredible. The other thing that was amazing about that event was that so many of the women who came either were existing Bold Darling members and upgraded to VIP based on the experience they had in that room. There are 2 women who came in straight into Bold Darling VIP from being in that room. There's a couple of women who were looking to come to Bali. It just felt like a really lovely beginning of a journey and a continuation of a journey for so many women from that event. So for the 20% next year, that Success Without Sacrifice event is 100% on the plan for next year. And the goal is to double it. So we really want to double the impact, double the numbers, double all of it next year. The other thing that seems like a bit of a weird one to put into my 20%, but I feel like I actually started to take Instagram seriously this year, the second half of this year. I committed to posting on my Instagram feed every single day for the month of July. And the benefit from doing that was immeasurable within my business. And I haven't continued at that cadence, but I definitely feel like I've found my stride with Instagram probably for the first time ever in this business, which is saying a lot given I've been on the platform for like, I don't know, however old it is, 8-10 years now. So that 20% next year is very much going to be really continuing on that journey with Instagram, continue playing with it, continue adding as much value as I can, continue looking at the insights. I think for so long I would just post on Instagram and just kind of cross my fingers that what I was sharing was helping women. And it's been really interesting actually looking at the insights on each individual post. And so as I'm recording this the other day, I did a very, very, very simple post, which was just an image of me in Bali with some text pasted over it. So there's a carousel of maybe 10 or 12 slides. And I was talking about perfectionism and this really powerful insight that I got while I was in Bali. And I wanted to share it with my community on Instagram. And it was really fascinating looking at, I think 25 women have saved that post, which is, I think, probably the highest ever. So that was really interesting to me. So that tells me, okay, there's something in perfectionism. This is obviously something that my audience are challenged with. And then it opens up a door to, okay, is there a podcast episode I could do on perfectionism? Is it a focus that I could really take into one of my monthly masterclasses within my Bold Darling Mastermind? So actually being in the conversation, posting consistently, and then seeing what the insights are, how is my audience responding to that? What kind of content seems to be really resonating? Just helps me get better and better and fine tune that even more so I can really add as much value as possible to the women connect with me on there. The other element I think as well of that 20% is we finally, cross fingers, it continues, we finally nailed ads on like meta ads this year. They were incredibly beneficial in my Bold Darling launch in August this year. So that's another one of the 20%. Like I want to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, is that 5 times? I really want to grow my investment in the ads because we've figured out the formula that's working. We've hired an incredible ads manager now who's doing a brilliant job. So that's something, again, that's in the 20% for next year. Okay, in my 10% for next year, first of all is an evergreen program. So what I mean by this is a relatively low-priced offer that women can jump in straight away and purchase, regardless of whether my Bold Darling doors are open or not, regardless of whether there's a Bali retreat coming up or not. Just something that in their moment of kind of need or desire or want, that they can jump on and grab something straight away. So the really cool thing for me is that this Elevated Strategy Method program that I've already mentioned to you in today's episode, it's $297. It is easily well over $1,000, if not $2,000 worth of value. So for me, that is obviously something great to be talking about around now as everyone's turning their focus to what they're doing in their businesses and personally next year. But it also becomes a really enduring evergreen product as well, because it's not like you can only do strategy for your business and life at the start of the year or the end of the year. You can do it anytime. So I'm really, really excited about that because A, it meets the need of my community around this time to plan next year, but also it's something that you could tap in and do as a reset mid-year as well if you want to. So the evergreen program is very much in the 10%. And I've had so many online programs. I mean, I've done I think probably 6 flagship ones now over the years. You may remember that last year I retired all my old programs, except one, which is business related, because I really wanted to clear space and clear energy for this new evergreen program, which is the Elevated Strategy Method. That feels really, really good. The second thing that is in the 10% next year is a brand new product that is actually quite outside of the category that I'm already within. I'm so excited about it. Sam is so excited about it. And it just feels kind of a little bit like a playground. Like it's just going to be a really cool offer to create, to deliver a really awesome creative outlet. And I think it's going to really meet a need from the women in my community. So I'm really, really excited to create that. I'm not going to say anything else about that just yet. It'll be coming more like second half of next year. Now, the other thing that's in my 10% next year is I feel a bit embarrassed sharing this with you because I actually haven't got a name for it yet. Myself and Sam are playing with the 12 cubed is what it's called. And just to give you a little bit of background to this offer. So I have had a one-on-one mentoring offer called Power Quarter Mentoring, which I have been offering for, oh my God, 4 or 5 years now, I think. And with that offer, it's essentially 3 months of intensive one-on-one with me. And it has been a brilliant offer. A lot of my Magnificence program actually came into my world through Power Quarter Mentoring. And I really, really love the work I get to do within that container, that one-on-one container. However, there are much more leveraged offers that I really want to create more time to work on. So for example, this brand new product, this new category that I want to step into next year, the Evergreen program. So I've had to make a really difficult decision because I really love doing that kind of work. But I've had to make the difficult decision to really channel most of my one-on-one mentoring time into my top tier Magnificence program, also into my Bold Darling VIP group, because obviously they get an element of one-on-one with me as well. And really, I guess, channeling the rest of that time that used to be spent on more like a 3-month package into working on more of those kind of one-to-many offers. So what I didn't want to do though is remove all stepping stones up to whether it's Bold Darling or Magnificence program. So, and again, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. I don't have a name yet. As this is going live, I'm sure the name is out there and I may have started talking to some of you about it. But essentially what I'm seeing this as is I was playing with the name Accelerator. It's more of an elevator. It's like you're running a really successful business, but maybe you're feeling a little bit stuck. You want to take it to the next level. Maybe you're at a bit of a crossroads in your business and you want to get my input on, okay, what does the reimagined version of your business look like? Or maybe you are at a stage where you've been in your business for a while, you're feeling a bit exhausted with it, kind of maybe falling a little bit out of love with it. And again, more that, I guess, that reimagination of, okay, what are the things that need to tweak and change to shift you out of overwhelm mode and into, okay, I'm back in love with my business and I'm re-engaged and I'm excited again. So how I'm seeing this is a 12-week program, and I'm very early days, so I'm just giving you the very bare headlines in case some of this shifts. Getting the whole group together in person in Sydney for a day. And then after that, then there are regular group touch points. There's also one-on-one elements with me over the 12 weeks. And really with the idea of like, we go in, we go fast, we go hard, but we also are very, very clearly focused on what is it the outcome? Where do you want to be sitting when you step out of that in 12 weeks time? So that is essentially going to take the place of that Power Quarter Mentoring one-on-one offer. We are going to run that once in the first quarter of next year and then see how we go. And then we may run it again in the second half of the year. So that is, yeah, as I said, I'm calling it the elevator. Maybe it will stay. Maybe it'll stick. I'll see. And it's very intentionally meant to, yeah, still enable me to be available and to help women one-on-one, but in a way that also enables me to focus on all the other elements of the business as well. And that's it. That is my business next year. It feels, just even reading it to you in this episode, it feels really simple. Oh, love simple. It feels really structured. It feels really easeful. And I know it's going to be crazy profitable. So that is how simple your business strategy can be for next year. And obviously that's what I would love to help you do as part of that elevated strategy method as well. Now, I didn't want to finish this episode without giving you, I guess, my top tips on business planning for next year. And of course, all of this can be applied to personal planning as well. So I've got 5 top tips for you. Is first of all, set the time aside to do the planning. You don't just roll out of bed one day and all of a sudden you've got an entire day to faff around and do your business planning. Like, it really needs to be intentional time. You also need to make it intentional if you have got a team who you need to maybe collect data from or brainstorm with or get their insights from and potentially work with them on it as well, like I did with Sam. So really set aside that time to plan. Ideally, if you can, spending a whole day mapping out your business plan for the following year. With the elevated strategy method, it's about a day's work. Obviously, you can split it up or you can do it all in one hit, but really prioritize and be very intentional about setting that time aside to do the planning. The second thing I would say as well is please follow a structured process, whether it's my process or it's someone else that you follow on Instagram or you listen to the podcast or whatever it might be. Please follow a structured process. There is no need at all to reinvent the wheel when it comes to business strategy. There are so many excellent models out there. So find a model that really resonates and speaks to you. From my perspective, I'm very focused on a holistically successful business strategy. I don't believe in smashing yourself and sacrificing, your relationships, your well-being, your peace of mind, your stress, in order to kick some kind of perceived goal of whether it's numbers or head hours or whatever it might be. So I think for me, it's very important for me that my process is very holistic and is respectful and supportive of all the different elements of my life, not just the business. The third thing I would say to you as well is strive to find that balance of, that stretching and that growing, but also keeping it realistic. So I have found it actually very stressful in the past when I've created, whether it's a quarterly plan or an annual plan for my business, and it feels so stretchy, like it's super exciting. And I go, holy fuck, it would be amazing if I landed in this place. But the actual journey to get there is so stressful and puts so much pressure on me and on my team that it's just not worth it. So my goal, whether it's with my own planning or if I'm helping a mentee plan out their next year or 5 years even, it's really to find that sweet spot where it feels like we're stretching and we're going to have to do a few things differently and get out of our comfort zone in order to land in a particular place. But it is not so stretchy that we're losing sleep at night. And there's a really beautiful quote from one of my friends, Jack Deloso, which I constantly parrot to my mentees and my Bold Darling group. And he said that growth cannot coexist with comfort. So we will always expect a certain level of discomfort when we are growing. If we're looking to grow our business, whether it's revenue or our different revenue streams or whatever it might be, we're always going to expect a level of discomfort. But I think it's for you to decide how much discomfort are you willing to take on over a particular year. So for some of you, this next year is not the best time to take on a high level of discomfort. Maybe your kids are still young. Maybe you're coming off the back of a pretty tumultuous year already this year, and next year just feels like it needs to be more of a steady recalibration, grounding yourself back into the business again. So only you will know what level of discomfort you want to take on over the next year. For me, and this 70-20-10 model that I've shared with you today, I feel there's enough in there that's stretchy and that's sexy to me that I'm excited to do that plan and where it's going to land me. Having done the financials on this yearly plan, like it's good. I'm really happy with that and excited for that. However, I do also feel like I can take this in my stride. I don't feel like it's going to stress me out doing this, if that makes sense. And I think having a business strategy that does not stress us out is sadly not spoken about enough. It's really, really important because also you want to enjoy it. I don't want to smash myself for the whole year and then get to the 31st of December and go, yay, I landed exactly where I landed, but holy shit, I'm exhausted. I just don't sign up for that. I unsubscribe from that whole philosophy. So finding that balance for you where you're growing and you're stretching, but it's still rooted in reality and keeps you grounded through the year. I think it's a path to tread. And I think over time, because I've done this business planning now for this is my 14th year planning this, it becomes easier and I start to know kind of what's my sweet spot and what's my capacity for growth versus discomfort over a particular year. The other thing I want to say as well, and I find that this releases a lot of pressure for me, but also my mentees when we're doing strategy planning, it's okay if the plans change. If I look at everything I said that I was going to do in the business this year, we've done 90% of it, 10% we haven't done. And that's because for whatever reason, it just didn't seem as important to do that particular thing. It would have been overwhelming for me or for the team if we had gone ahead and done that particular thing. Or we just got to a point where well, actually, it just doesn't make sense to do that. There's other things that would be more worth spending time on rather than that particular thing. So I find when I'm doing my planning and I've kind of baked in enough permission for myself that, okay, if this needs to change, then that is okay. I find it relieves so much of the stress and the pressure on business planning because, okay, cool. What I've shared with you today, that feels really, really good. And then maybe there's 10% of that across the board that doesn't get done, and that's okay. It just removes that need for perfection. Like, I have to nail my business plan by the 1st of January or else. It removes that completely. So please remember, it's okay if your strategy needs to change over the year. And I think this is the beauty of being a smaller business, is that we get to be nimble and we get to dip and dive depending on what it is that might happen over the following year. The other thing I'm going to say as well as a last tip is to break it down. So what I've shared with you there, it's very simple, but underneath all of that kind of, this is what we're going to do next year, there's going to be quarterly plans, there's going to be weekly to-do lists, there's going to be very clear workflows within the team. So breaking it down, and I'm a big fan of planning out where I want to be in a year and then breaking it down per quarter. So all of this that I've just shared with you will be essentially living in quarterly plans, so 90-day plans throughout all of next year. So it's very overwhelming if you're looking at your business strategy going, holy shit, this is this is so much. Please do break it down. Everything that I've shared with you there is not all going to happen. I shared with you, for example, that elevator is going to happen the first half of next year. That new category is going to happen the second half of next year. So please do break it down. Just do whatever you can to not have yourself an overwhelm, essentially. Because then, you get to enjoy the journey and you get to not be stressed out of your mind about it as well. So there are 5 top tips. Obviously, there is so much more where that came from in the elevated strategy method, because in that I will actually be holding your hand step by step. I actually really I've never structured a program like this before. So what we've done is we hired a studio and I recorded, the theory and the mindset piece and the reframes and all the things for the program in the studio. And then the other day of filming that I've done is actually on my computer, stepping you through each of the different worksheets. So you kind of tag team between me and studio, talking about, the high level theory and why we do this and how you can do it, into the real, the nitty gritty of, okay, I'm going to step you through this now. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited about it. So that is within the elevated strategy method. I can really step you through the whole planning process, business and also personal as well. So regardless of where you're at in terms of your planning for next year, I just want to wish you the very best of luck in doing it. And of course, please do not forget personal goals, because they are just as, if not more, important as well. And if you do want to check out the elevated strategy method, I would love to have you in there. Again, link is in the show notes and you can grab that pretty much straight away right now. Thank you so much for joining this week's episode. It has been so lovely sharing this with you. And if you're not already connected with me on Instagram, please do jump over and say hi at Lorraine Murphy Mentor. And it's always so good to hear your feedback, what your takeaways were, what really landed for you, what actions you're going to go away and take as a result of listening to today's episode. So please do jump over to Insta and let me know what you're actioning from today's episode. And also, we are also planning the podcast and what topics we're going to be focusing on next year. So if you do have any special requests, I am all ears for that as well. So sending lots of love. Thank you so much for joining this week's episode, and I'll chat to you again next week.